performance management, e-business suite performance management and tuning. So here in Oracle e-business suite, how we can manage, how we can maintain the same level of performance, the same level of response time. So it is all about maintaining the response time, right? That is all about proactive tuning. Proactive tuning. Well, I think up to we have discussed about day-to-day routine task. If you have any questions, please you ask me in that, the day-to-day routine task. Now here we have to look at how we are going to set up, configure each e-business suite components for better performance. So as I said, right after installation, you have to spend time to configure all these e-business suite components: database, concurrent manager server, OC4J, OA code, forms, all this you have to configure. Then you can expect good performance. Just not just installation and leaving. Even if you perform this day-to-day task daily, still you may have performance if you have not configured the various e-business suite components in a proper way. So let's look at this. So same thing we are going to talk about e-business suite performance tuning. It's all about proactive tuning. It's all about like configuration management. How we're going to configure the various components. If you recall, we discussed that right after installation, you have to apply all the product specific patches and performance patches. For that, there is a document 244041. And after that, now you have to start with first database. So in this e-business suite, so various components. So first you pick up database. So what you are going to do with the database? Okay. Initially, first if you look at now, the block size is okay, perfectly 8K. Block size is 8K. But extent size is very important actually. So here you know that that block size used by Oracle is basically it is 8K, and this is okay, fine. E-business suite, and it is recommended 8K block size. Or how about the extent size actually? Extent size. You know, generally Oracle was recommending that you have to use LMT, you know, the OATM, that is Oracle Application Table Space Management, Oracle Application Table Space Model, that all LMT with ASSM. So when your table space is all local ASSM, then you know what, the extent size is auto allocate. Extent size is what? Auto allocate, which is not good for fragmentation. Whenever we create a table space, you know, we specify some size, extent size. Isn't it? Extent management, local, uniform size, isn't it? So if you are going for auto allocation, that's easy, but the problem is fragmentation. Auto, who is going to define this? Who will decide and define the size of the extent? Oracle will do it. That's called auto allocate. Okay, but if you can make it fixed, it is good. So for example, you know, this extent size, you know, maybe like say 1 MB, or you know, you can say 200-300 MB, or maybe say, you know, 4 MB to 6 MB for large databases. So generally we have some guidelines, you know, like say 100K to 200K for small databases, small to medium, and for large databases 1 MB. For very large databases, anything between 4 to, you can go max 10. Size of the extent. Size of the extent. Okay. So I'll discuss on this more point on this. Just you note down that the extent size has to be defined according to our database size. Extent size, e-business suite extent size. You can decide to go for auto allocation, but better if you can go for what? Uniform size. So extent size must be uniform, but what depends on your database. As I said, the roughly guidelines, you know what, if you look at this 100K, 200K for small to medium databases, 1 MB, okay, 1 MB is good for large databases, 1 MB max 2 MB, okay, and anything like, because I have seen like those organizations whose database is very large, when they were using anything between 4 to somewhere 8, can go up to 10, the font performance is good. Okay. So you can say maybe 4, 8 generally, max you can go 10 also. This is another important area. This is another important area you people have to look at. Extend size, very important area. Oracle database engine should not be too busy in allocating extend. Okay? It should not be too busy in allocating what? Extends. So you have to make sure that the extends is properly defined for your e-business suite. Next, if you look at like your file placement, okay, your files, your data files, your log files, file placement. File placement, yes. It's a very important lecture where you are keeping your data files, redo log file, control file, multiplexing of control files, redo log files. There is nothing Oracle is going to take care. Nothing Oracle going to. You have to do everything. Oracle say nothing. You have to do everything. You install, leave it, and you are going to have lots of performance problems. Okay. So there is no question like where you are going to keep control. For example, I have seen like they are maintaining 3 control files and unnecessarily 3 control files without RAID level. 3 control files in the same disk. 3 control files in the one disk. So this is a big problem. All the I/O will be one disk, and whatever is written to the same control, everything the SCN is recorded. Same SCN is recorded to 3 control files at a time. So that's unnecessary, isn't it? So 3 control files should be in different disk, isn't it? Or suppose if you are using RAID level, then how many control files? Mirroring. How many? 1, isn't it? Again, I saw that there are 3 control files in the one disk, and they are saying that why we are keeping 3 control files in one disk, because there is a RAID level is there. But when already the RAID level is there, why 3 control files are required? So file placement and use of RAID. Are you using RAID? If you yes, which RAID level is good? Again, which RAID level is good? Again, attacking already this. For data files, it is RAID 1 plus 0. For control file, RAID 0 is enough. No need memory. RAID 0 is enough. Okay. And again, here the question: are you using ASM? If you are using ASM, is good. Fine. Or if no ASM, if there any hardware level RAID is used, which hardware? No, you see, we cannot demonstrate ignorance. Most of the DBA, apps DBA, they demonstrate, perfectly they demonstrate ignorance. You see, I'm a DBA, I'm an apps DBA, I'm not a hardware guy, so I don't know. So we can't demonstrate this ignorance. We have to go and ask everything. You must know what applications are there, which license. You can't no ignorance, nothing. Lack of knowledge, lack of this ignorance will kill will have lot of performance problems. Knowledge itself will help you. Okay? You need to go and find everything. Okay. So RAID level, ASL. And then you look at even this basic thing. This is what I call e-business to database. Even your log file sizing, log files, log groups. How many log groups you are going to have? Members. Okay. And how about the sizing? How you are controlling log switches? Through that, how you are controlling checkpoint, isn't it? Because 2 things are important here: log switch, and you know that every log switch causes what? Even log switch causes what? Checkpoint, isn't it? So when your log switch is going to take place? So what is your rate of transaction? According to that, what you are sizing the redo log phase? In e-business suite database, Oracle is doing nothing. So this is the 3rd time I am saying it is nothing. We have to do everything. You understand? That's all about tuning here. We have to do all these things. The reason when I said when I said too much, why he is saying so much humor? Because of the reality. I have seen most of the client players which are horrible. Believe me, horrible. I'm telling you, majority players horrible. I'm saying they don't spend time. That's why I shout like this. They don't spend time. See, 1, 2, 3 organization, world best, those leave it then. They are ultimate. Majority sites are horrible. They are using Oracle e-business suite companies, but their setup is not up to mark. And you can definitely blame the people who are supporting the apps DBs. They don't take action. So we have to do all this right after installation. So all these are very important. And if you don't do this, then you will be doing firefighting job. That's called firefighting jobs. Then there are always performance issues. Because initially we have not spent time in configuration. And then coming to the most important area, one of the most important area, the parameter settings for database. It's a part of database, right? Most important area. Let me write down. So what are you going to do? How are you going to set initialization parameter? Every initialization parameter is important. So I give you here 9396009.1. This is the document which you have to follow. SGS sizing, PGS sizing, optimizer related parameters. There are other parameters are there. What should be the value of optimizer underscore mode? Optimizer index cost adjacent, optimizer features enable, okay, and then you have SG related parameter, PG related parameters, what extra parameter you need, okay. So there is the guidelines given in this document for setting initialization parameters. Your database initialization parameter for e-business. The end of this document, there is a good part is that there is one section called sizing is there. For example, 100 concurrent users are there. What should be the size of SGA? What should be the size of PGA? At least to give you an idea. Generally, you don't expect, just for knowledge, you don't expect all these precise things from Oracle support. You cannot ask, that tell me if I this, how. No, you can't ask. Then they will ask you to consult their consulting division. Consulting division means, you understand? Consulting division means then big billing will be there. So generally you cannot ask direct questions. That my hardware is this, my this user, how much? No, you cannot ask direct question. You cannot ask. But following this document, you can make it. So there is a section is there, sizing section is there, parameter sizing, SGA sizing, PGA sizing, optimizer related parameters. This is all you have to do for database following that document. And already I told you that you also have to apply all the performance related patches. And the same document. For database also same document, 2440, okay, 2440.401, same document. In this document you will have database interior patches for performance patches, not only application patches, database patches. And how do you apply those patches? Using O-patch utility, the interior patches, O-patch utility. So this is what we are talking about. This is real tuning. People think what tuning means. SQL trace, ptc4. This is real tuning. This is tuning. We are talking about performance tuning. Okay, this is proactive tuning. You are deciding how I'm going to distribute I/O, file placement I/O. You are doing tuning, isn't it? You are doing tuning. You are defining proper extent size. You are doing tuning. Isn't it? It's all of tuning. You define what should be the proper size of SG and P. You are doing tuning, isn't it? Not at the time when your users are chasing you, you are doing tuning. So this is the part of the database. And remember these two documents. Then next comes the CMS, Concurrent Manager Server, right after installation I'm talking about. So we don't expect there are any custom managers are there. So already we have discussed about this custom concurrent managers. So here you need to actually you must have to define custom managers. Of course, define custom concurrent managers. At least minimum 2 to 3. Don't define too many concurrent managers. Don't define too many concurrent managers, because we have to allocate at least 50 MB RAM for concurrent managers. We have to give at least 50 MB RAM for concurrent manager. Concurrent managers, I'm saying 50 MB RAM, 50. And every concurrent manager, every concurrent request, for every concurrent request 10 MB. Every concurrent request is treated as one session. So if there are 100 concurrent sessions are running, 10 MB. I'll give you more formula for sizing formula. How do we calculate how much RAM we need, how many processor we need. So here you must define custom concurrent managers, and then you know that you need to define this processor sleep time accordingly. Sleep time. Sleep time, if it is, like say for example 60 seconds, then means your jobs will run slow. You want to run your job fast or you want to run your job slow. I told you there are two things are there. Sleep time is there, and then processors is there, and cache memory is there. Three things. So you need to properly define this all. But having too many concurrent custom managers is not a good idea. Maybe 2 or 3 custom concurrent managers is a good idea. And then further what you can do is like, here you can go for PCP. You can go for parallel concurrent processing. What you can do, you can distribute these concurrent managers among when you have multi nodes. So why to run all the concurrent managers in one node? You can distribute the concurrent. So distributing concurrent managers on multiple node, it is called PCP, parallel concurrent processing. You can do it with without rack also, but it is recommended in a rack environment, particularly rack. So this is basically load balancing. This is the PCP, parallel concurrent processing. It's all about load balancing of concurrent managers. Load balancing of concurrent managers. Yes, you can do that. You can do that. You know what we are doing actually? We are basically maintaining concurrent manager along with the DB tag, isn't it? We are doing that, right? And now in that machine there are a lot of load is there. Already database is there in that box, and then your concurrent manager is there. And the other boxes you have forms and Apache and all that. So why not put some load of these, give some of the load of these CMS to other nodes, isn't it? So PCP. And PCP I am going to discuss later more in detail at the time of RAC, Real Application Cluster. The idea is that, for example, if you have to define two concurrent managers, so you can divide it. One custom manager on one node, another on another. No need to define two custom managers on the same node. So when the concurrent managers are running on different node, they will be using the local resources. Two managers running in the same node will be using same resources. Running in different node, they will be using different resources. Right? So this is a good idea about custom, how you are going to do the tuning for concurrent managers. Defining custom concurrent managers plus, and then you have to take care about those parameters. Remember, sleep time, cache, and processes. All those parameters are already discussed. So this is you have to do right after installation, before going to the production. Then the most important component is coming. That is your OA core. OA core. In the OA core first, it is OA core what? OA core. Sorry. This is what is the name of the application server? OC4J. And what is the name of the application? The first application is what? OA. Oh, yes, of course we are talking about OA core, but the application service OC4J, OA core. Now what are we going to do with this actually? How we are going to configure OC4J? You know that under OC4J 3 instances are running. OA core, forms, last you say OAFM, because only two are important. OAFM is, okay, that's optional actually, we don't need, but OA core and forms. So let's first say OA core. So how we are going to configure OC4J for OA core? Configuring OC4J for OA core. Okay. Now let's see this. This is right after installation. This is very important because this is one of the application. Now we are tuning application. We are talking about tuning of application. You know this OC4J need JVM. OC4J need JVM to run OA core application. OC4J need JVM. It needs what? For running this, it needs what? JVM, Java Virtual Machines. Java Virtual Machines to run OA core application. Java based application. JVMs. So now the question is, how many JVMs we need to configure? This is the guideline. This is what we are going to do. It needs JVM, but how many JVMs? Question. Okay. JVMs. Okay. JVMs, how many? Okay. How many JVMs? How many JVMs and how to configure? So there is a JVM is required. And each JVM, Java Virtual Machine, basically each Java Virtual Machine performs a very important activity called garbage collection. Each JVM performs an activity called garbage collection. Okay. And for this garbage collection, it performs an activity called garbage collection activities. Garbage collection activities. GC stands for garbage collection. And for this, it needs memory. So JVM needs memory. So for that, what does JVM need? Needs what? Memory. Memory. and that memory is actually called heap. Actually, we call heap. Actually, heap. So now the question is heap. So how many JVMs you need? For each JVMs, how much heap? So for heap, we need to do two things. You need to define min heap and max heap. Min and max heap. Okay. So Java virtual machines actually performing what is garbage collection? I will discuss that. So JVMs basically perform garbage collection activities, and they need memory, and the memory is called a heap, memory address heap, and we have to define the min and max heap. Okay. So number of JVMs and what should be the min heap and what should be the max heap. So these are the things we have to configure right after installation. Okay, we have to configure this. So number of JVMs, how many number of JVMs we need, we'll discuss. Okay, the brief about this garbage collection is actually, you know, this when a Java virtual machine is running a Java program, and it is running a Java programs, and that particular Java programs actually will define various objects in the memory. It creates various objects in the memory, variables, whatever you say, objects in the memory. Okay. And when the program doesn't need that particular object which is already there in the memory, okay, so who is going to remove that object from the memory? A JVM is going to do that. Very simple explanation, and that is exactly called garbage collection. So if you look Java, JVM, Java virtual machine is running a Java program, and that Java program basically defines some objects in the memory, and if that object is no more required by the running program, so that program is not referencing that particular object which is in the memory. It doesn't need that. This program doesn't need that object. So that particular object will be removed from the memory. That memory will be released by Java virtual machine. So here, for a Java programmer, he doesn't need to explicitly define in the program clearing of what? The objects. So this is one, like, you know, you can say a Java programmer, when he defines some objects in a program, he doesn't need to do it, like, you know. So who's doing the job? Java virtual machine is doing. And for that Java virtual machine, basically there are a couple of parameters we need to configure for this memory and all that. I'll discuss more about, there are more parameters are there, but initially you understand only min and max. So we just have to define min and max. So this is the memory, and then JVM will take care of these garbage collection activities. So basically, if you look at now, when a program is running, it needs memory, isn't it? So who's running that program? JVM. So it needs memory. So that's the memory actually. And plus it is performing all garbage collection and all that. And second question is, how many garbage collector? JVM is doing garbage collection. So how many garbage collector it requires? Does it only one? No, sometimes it may need what? Two garbage collectors, the parallel garbage collection. You understand? These, we as an RC really have to do that. Again, there is something called parallel garbage collection. For parallel, how many parallel? So there is another parameter we need to do. Another parameter. Later I will tell you. Second, okay, the memory used by JVM. Certain memory again is a separate memory we have to allocate for special objects like classes and Java classes, and for JSP classes, and special sublets for sublets and classes. Like for example, we have a HDA buffer cache. We have a buffer cache. But what we do, we again have key pool for certain object tables for another memory. You understand? Apart from recycle pool or default pool, key pool. So here also we need to allocate memory for the Java programs. It's called permanent memory and all that. But right now we'll discuss only how to define number of JVMs and also how to allocate min and max. And the other parameters I will discuss with you later. So look at it. So we have to do this one, JVMs, and for this JVM, what is required? Heap, and heap is what? Min and max. This is called X. These are the name of the parameters called X, M, S, XMX. This is min and this is max. But let's see what is the guidelines for this number of JVMs and heap memory. Okay? What is the guidelines actually? How many JVMs and what should be the heap actually, mix min and max. Here it is like this. For 100 active users, we are talking about HTML based application. OA code means what? HTML. This is not form based application for HTML. For 100 HTML based, for 100 active HTML based users, 1 JVM. So what is the guidelines for that? Look at that. 1 JVM per 100 active users. Now this is the main guidelines. So we need to allocate JVMs. We need to allocate this memory heap. But how many JVMs? 1 JVM per 100 active users. Now you will understand here the sizing. How we are going to size, calculate the number of seed processor and RAM and all that. Look at it. Okay. The next important is 2 CPU per JVM. 2 CPUs per JVM. Now you got it? If your concurrent users are more than 100, say 150, 160. So I'm asking you a direct question. How many CPUs you need? 4. Your active users are more than 100, 150, 160, 130, 140, more than 100. So you need 2 JVM. And for 2 JVMs you need what? 4 CPUs. 1 JVM, 1 CPU is okay, but there will be always performance problem. So okay, what is recommended is per JVM 2 CPU. Now you understand? So that means if your number of active users are increasing, it doesn't mean that we can simply increase JVM. No. To increase JVM, we need to have the resources. We need to have the processor. And per JVM, we need to have 2 processors. You got it? So this is the calculation. So on what basis you are going to calculate how many CPU processors you need? What are your concurrent users, active users? How many active users you have? But you are going to ask separately. You are going to ask separately. How many active users you have? Form-based users separate, and then this HTML base. This is for HTML base. For form-based also we will see. And then, what is the memory we need to configure? For every JVM, what is the min and max? The default what is coming in release 12 is, this is 256 MB and this is 512 MB. So it is a default in actual release 12. In 11 it is less than this. You better change it to min 512 MB and max 1024 MB, that is 1 gig. 1 gig. So what we have to do? You change your min memory to 512 MB and max 1 gig. So that means you are giving how much for per JVM? 1 gig per JVM, isn't it? 1024 MB, isn't it? 1024, 1 gig per JVM. So per JVM, how many CPU? 2 CPU and memory 1 gig. And for HTML based users, this is for HTML based users. And plus there are other parameters are there, garbage collectors, permanent max size, memory. There are 2-3 more parameters are there which I will discuss with you for this JVM. This is called JVM tuning, Java tuning, JVM tuning. Yes, as an apps DBA, we are responsible for tuning this Java tuning. And all this is mentioned in which file? What is the name of the file? opmn.xml. opmn.xml. In 11i, there used to be 2 files, jsf.conf and jsf.conf, jsf.properties. You can take down those names later. But in R12, the configuration file for this JVM and heap is opmn.xml. But you know very well how you are going to do this, how you are going to make these changes, how you are going to configure this JVM and heap. That's the standard actually. For that, you need to know context variable. You need to know context variable. You go to context file, you edit the context file, you define the value of the context variable and run autoconfig, and the changes will be applied to this particular file. And the name of the context variable for JVM is SOA code JVM S and SOA code and proc. So for JVM, what is the name of the context variable? SOA code and proc. For example, when you open the context file, you find a variable, very simple variable. What's the name of the variable? S OA core and proc is equal to, you said 2, 3, 4, save and come out, run auto config. This is to increase JVM. So how do you increase JVM? Here you mention the number of JVMs in the context file. And what's the name of the context variable? S OA core and procs. That's it. And for defining this heap all, this S OA core and proc option. S OA core JVM start option. So here you can define the remaining parameters. The XMX, XMS, XMS for min, XMX for max. And you can also define parallel garbage collectors, how many parallel, but those we'll discuss. So all you can define here. All. Min, max, all you can define here. So you remember only two context variables. One is S OA core and procs, S OA core JVM start option. These are context variables. You open the context file, you make changes and run auto config, and the changes will be applied to opmn.xml. And then later when you are going to start these services, or OA core service, so then it is going to read which file? opmn.xml. It will read opmn.xml and then it will start the JVMs, whatever JVMs we have mentioned. So this is tuning, Java tuning, JVM tuning. The other parameters we'll discuss later. And now you know that even in R12 forms is running under OC4J, right? Correct? By default, what do you call that? Servlet, form servlet. If forms is running under OC4J as a servlet, again for forms also we need to configure what? This JVM and heap. If you change your forms connection mode from servlet to socket, then you don't need. So we need to discuss two things for forms. Forms running in servlet mode, forms running in socket. And it is, Oracle is not strongly, it's very strongly Oracle is recommending change socket. Strongly change socket performance wise. But suppose if we are going to run or we are going to continue using forms in servlet mode, what we have to do? Is there any question for you from me here? Any question on this? OC4J forms. So actually we must change it of course, but suppose we will continue this. If we are going to continue, then what we need again for this? We need what? JVMs. And for JVMs what we need? XMS, XMX, isn't it? Min and max. You know what is the guidelines for this? Based on Oracle testing, up to 200 to 250 users, one JVM, sir. Okay. One JVM for 200 to 250 users, active users. But again, what I said that for the complex forms, if your forms are very complex and customized, then you reduce it. So now you understand who is using more resources? Is a form using more or your HTML OA code? So and then that same thing. Hold it. 2 CPUs per JVM. So if you have got 200 form based user, how many CPU we need? 2. Same 200 HTML based user, 4 CPU. 4. And again, this is also not much required. You know what is default coming? Default coming is 156 MB, 256 MB, and you better change it to 256 new, and this is to 512 MB. This is you change it. So what should be the XMS and min mem? 256 and max 5. So it is using less memory also. Just imagine, it is using less resources. Still Oracle is recommending to change servlet to socket because there are other performance issues are there. Connection is very slow and using less resources but very slow. So less resources but the response is very slow. So that's why Oracle is saying no, this is not good. Better change this servlet to socket. So this is the guidelines for form servlet. Form servlet, and recommendation is of course form socket. So this is the guidelines for form servlet. And this the context variable also this s forms and props. Okay, here you need to define how many JVMs you need. S OA core and prop for JVMs for OA core for HTML. S forms and props JVMs for form subnet. The another context variable in the same XML, another context variable. And then again you have same S forms JVM start option. S forms JVM start option. This is for JVM mean and max heap. Mean and max. So the two context variable for these HTML based and two for these forms. Even you can have two form server, or you can have, for external users you can go for servlet, for internal users you can go for socket. For external user, servlet, for internal user, socket. External user for security, servlet, for internal users you can go for socket. But the main guidelines for, I said this is for internal users, meaning for internal users, yeah, socket is good, and for external users, continue to use servlet. This part, other forms tuning guidelines, there are some more forms tuning guidelines are given by Oracle. The first is, as I said that already, like change from servlet to socket. Here you are going to use this utility tx.krun.com. So you have to better change this. And there are few more guidelines are there which I would like to discuss again later in next session. I would like to discuss. Practically you go through this. And also you can you just go through for troubleshooting if a form's query running slow, or if a report itself is running slow, then how you are going to trace a form session, how you're going to trace a concurrent program session. So that you can directly practically see, and then further what to do we'll discuss. At least how to generate a trace file. Okay. If a user is complaining that when I am performing a query in a form, then the query is running, the response time is very slow. Form I am saying. Second, a user is running a report and that report itself is running slow. So you need to trace that report. Report is what? Concurrent program. So how to trace a concurrent program and how to trace a forms. Or how to trace an HTML based user. Tracing at least. So more about troubleshooting. If a concurrent request is running slow, so what are the areas we have to check and all that, which I will discuss later. Or if a client user is complaining that my jobs are running slow, what are the areas? Even we have to do, client tuning is also important, client tuning. Oracle even has given these guidelines, are standard guidelines, right? Even there are guidelines are there for your client. There are guidelines are there for network. Database, application, operating system, your network and the client. Even there are guidelines for the client. So if you follow all these guidelines, then this is all about proactive tuning. So I think today let us just finish this part. Tomorrow we can start fresh. So tomorrow I'll continue this part more, and then more about troubleshooting I will like to discuss. So you can see all this practically, how you can configure JVMs, heap and all that. Tomorrow I would like to discuss more. Right.
पीटी में क्या था